So here we are. It's Father's Day, in case you didn't already know. And it being Father's Day, I was reminded of how last year, for Mother's Day, we had a panel. It was at that point in my life where I'm like, I will only cry if I try to speak on Father's Day. And so I invited a panel of people to share. And on Mother's Day, just about a month before that, I did the same thing, invited a panel of people to share. On Mother's Day, we had our very own Mark Thies sharing. And I invited Mark Thies to share because, as he so aptly stated during his panel share, something that stuck with me throughout this year, there was this moment in his life when he realized, you know what? Hey, I'm going to be a father again. I'm going to be a father. And then he said, but I didn't know that I was going to be a mother also. And it was, as he shared publicly at that time, a time in his life when also he was becoming separated from his wife at the time. And so he took on the role of taking care of this new baby as father and mother. And so it made sense that this year, as we hold and host Father's Day, that I would invite Melanie Paul McLuhan to share about her role coming into motherhood and then realizing in a fashion that she would also take on a fatherhood role too. So please help me to welcome up to the podium to share for the very first time publicly about her own spiritual journey and how that has impacted her parenting. Melanie.
I love that picture. It's awesome. Hello. Hi. All right. So my name is Melanie Paul McLuhan. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was married in 2001, and I had these two amazing girls here, that's Claire and Ella. And I was divorced in 2013, but it's been an amazing journey since then. I've been coming to Unite since August 2016, which is almost 2 years now. And prior to that, I did not attend any church. I actually had an aversion to it. But seriously. But now I am just so happy that I found this amazing community, and I feel so nourished and supported here. So thank you all. Okay, so Rev Nhien has asked me to share about being a single mom and what that looks like in terms of fathering and mothering. And I also want to go back to say that although I am a single mom, their dad is involved 50-50, so they have us both equally, so I feel very happy about that. So first of all, I don't believe in the traditional mother-father roles. I just call it parenting. But both can be loving and nurturing and supportive. However, the male and female energies are different and bring out different traits. Both mothers and fathers possess masculine and feminine characteristics or energy. And I believe society did not make it safe for men to connect with their feminine energy. And I believe connecting more with this energy will deepen fathers' relationships with their children. And this does not mean getting rid of the masculine energy, because both are needed. And the same goes for mothers. It seems to me that women have taken on a more male energy and have started to lose balance to the feminine. And I know this to be true for me. So I started to think about ways in which I show up more masculine. I started to think about ways that I show up from my masculine energy versus my feminine. And some of the masculine traits that I've discovered I embody are leader, doer, a striver, organizer, logical thinker. There's some hardness that I can bring to my energy and some control. And then some of my feminine traits are being nurturing, patient, intuitive, creative, soft, and allowing. Now, historically, I tended to stay in the male energy. It was not until I started doing my deep personal spiritual work that I found a way to connect with my true self. And it was during that time that I noticed so many feminine qualities starting to come through. More recently, I've learned the importance of having a balance between the both. So I'd like to explore a handful of feminine and masculine traits that I have been working with to better balance. And I would like to show how this has influenced my parenting. Okay, so let's explore the feminine energy of softness and the male energy of hardness. And one way softness has showed up for me is as grace. Historically, I did not have much grace. I mean, if someone messed up and did something wrong, I was all over them, and it was not pretty. I mean, so this was my masculine energy of hardness, way out of balance. So through my spiritual journey, I've learned to love myself and treat myself with compassion. And I realized that I'm not perfect, and I want to nurture and love myself and not punish and beat myself up. So once this became ingrained in me, it was then so easy to extend grace outward to people in my life. I'm not always perfect at this, but I see so much growth in this space. And my girls reap the benefit of this. Because I can extend grace toward them, it gives them a safe place to fail and grow. And I feel with this gift, they can move through their lives with love and compassion towards themselves and the world. When I make a mistake and get frustrated or yell, it happens, I first need to have grace towards myself. And when I do that, it allows me to recognize my unskillful response, call it out, apologize, and ask for forgiveness. And when the girls see this model, they learn that no one is perfect and that it's okay to love and be kind to yourself and others. On the other side, sometimes it's necessary to take a harder stance in order to teach a lesson. And sometimes these lessons are hard to take in, but if I give enough hardness and then balance out with some softness, then the lesson is more readily received. And with this balance, the girls can receive a message that might be hard to take in, but they can take it in without having shame. And they hear me and can take in the importance of what I'm saying, but also feel loved and cared for. So now I'd like to discuss the feminine energy of allowing and the masculine energy of control. And one way allowing shows up for me is authenticity. Through my spiritual journey, I have developed courage and bravery to show up as me. I really did not know what that looked like and what that meant. And I'm still working through this, but I have such a stronger understanding of that. And I was not given the space as a child. This has helped me give space to my girls to learn for themselves and not impose on them what I think they should be. When I was off balance in my masculine energy of control, I was forceful in trying to get them to be as I wished. Now I allow them to experiment and show up in any way they choose. This is challenging for me sometimes because I get caught up in worrying about what other people think, which is what kept me in that control place, to keep, so I can force them to be what I want them to be, because I'm so afraid of what other people think. So kind of brought out that imbalance of the masculine energy of control. So if I'm balancing allowing and control, I can give the space the girls need for them to be authentic, but also use control to guide them to be amazing human beings in this world. I would now like to explore the feminine energy of being versus doing. Historically, I did not spend any time in the being. I was more in the masculine energy of doing. I was so anxious and constantly spinning because I was in balance with the masculine energy of doing. I was not able to really be with my girls. I did not fully see them. I was constantly moving and doing and in my head. When in this place, I did not have the patience to really hear what they were telling me and would be impatient and react to things that were not fully understood. My journey towards being came through my meditation practice. They are fully seen and heard when I am in this place. And when I am grounded and present, they fully get their mom, and this gives them a sense of worthiness and importance. This also provides a safe place for them to work through their feelings. My girls, they talk to me about things that most kids would not feel comfortable talking to their parents about. And this really, really warms my heart. Really, seriously. And it's something that I want to continue to foster. So with that being, I get to balance it. So with the being, I get to balance it with doing. I'm a parent, single half the time parent. I just need to get things done. So I have to grocery shop, I have cooking, cleaning, getting the girls to their activities, helping with their homework, engaging in projects, planning for the future. If I'm over-focused on doing, then I don't have space to really be with my girls. So doing needs to be balanced with being. So, in closing, it is so important to me that my girls have strong, loving male influences in their lives. I was not blessed with this in my childhood. They're so lucky to have an amazing dad who is so present in their lives. He makes them important and shows up and shows love in many ways. He's always looking for ways to teach girls lessons and help them traverse adulthood in their He is always looking for ways to teach the girls lessons that will help them traverse adulthood in easier ways. And I'm now in an amazing relationship with Shane, and I'm also very happy to have Shane in my girl's life. He's doing amazing personal work and is able to connect with his feminine energy. Woo! Yeah, it's awesome. And now it is also balancing more with his male energy, so it's pretty amazing. And my girls now have an idea how a healthy man shows up. And with this model, they will seek out men in their lives that possess qualities of the important males in their lives. So that's just, wow, I'm so happy. So it's Father's Day, so I just want to say Happy Father's Day. And so fathers, you are important, so unbelievably, just as important as mothers. And your work impacts children's lives, and it impacts their lives, and in the end, impacts the world. So keep going, keep doing it, keep showing up for your kids. Thank you. Thank you so much. Another hand for Melanie. For the very first time. So, as Melanie was sharing, it struck me that in our individual and collective awakening, I think we'll probably come to a point where maybe we don't have a separate Mother's Day and Father's Day anymore, right? Because as each of us continues to evolve and grow and come into a greater knowing of our own wholeness, the whole spectrum of possibility for each human being, whether they be designated male or female, maybe that's not going to keep going either anymore, is going to dissipate, right? And so we start to merge, and I think we see this collectively as we see the rise of the divine feminine in this world. That again is a counterbalance to maybe not necessarily just a purely masculine energy, but perhaps a masculine energy out of balance. So we see that collectively. But we see it individually in stories like this, in individuals like Melanie who can't, which is the masculine and the feminine, we embody both. And we saw it last year also. I was reminded by a Facebook post in the story of Mark Thies, sharing about his raising of his daughter, Macy May, who was the one talking during my meditation earlier. That's Macy May back there. And so I wanted to share the
another story, Mark's story around this, a piece that he didn't share last year. So Macy May was born 15 weeks premature. And so as a preemie, it was encouraged to do this kangaroo care, where preemies, you're encouraged to hold them skin to skin. And so that's a picture of Mark doing that. That's a time when Macy May needed a tube, both for food and one also for air to breathe. And actually, for the first 3 months, Mark wasn't even able to hold her because she was in an incubator during that time. But so on my Facebook, I saw a post just yesterday where Mark had posted this picture reflecting on this love he has for Macy. And with it, he wrote a poem. So I thought I'd share Mark's poem with you. He wrote, "Is it a memory or a vision? Perhaps it is the now. Your tiny body on my chest, pulling me to the other side, your side, everybody's side. Fire purple blaring, your life held there by wires and tubes, fragile, tiny you. You know everything there is to know. Immobile and soaring, showing me the path to our oneness, our vulnerability, our suchness. I remember this vision of forever now. You will always be my teacher." The embrace of the feminine qualities of nurturance and comfort by fathers is on the rise. Right? Even in the Boys' Life magazine, which is a magazine for Boy Scouts, there's a story told of a father and his little boy. Actually, little boys are not this high, we're like closer to my head. Father and his little boy going over to the zoo together. And they go and they see the tigers at the zoo. And the little boy is frightened because the dad is like going off about how ferocious these are ferocious tigers, he says. And the boy says, "Ah." And he asks his father, "Daddy, what happens if they get out of their cage and come and eat you up?" The boy asks. And the dad, who like Mark has been doing, self-empowerment, wholeness work, in touch with his feminine side, is touched and thinks, this is my moment to comfort him. "So what happens, Dad?" the little boy asks. "What happens, Daddy, if the tiger comes out of the cage and eats you up?" And the father looks at his son, ready to reach out. He says, "Yes, son?" And the boy says, "Which bus do I take home?" That's what he said. "Which bus do I take home?" So, today, it being Father's Day, I'd like to invite you to explore the loss of an old notion of fatherhood and the getting on a bus and coming home to a more awakened notion of fatherhood. So I invite you to join with me to start, to even imagine, because everything begins first in our consciousness and then arises into the world in form, right? Take a moment and consider what in an awakened world does this new fatherhood, parenthood even, look like? But let's stick with these qualities that we normally assign to fathers first. What are the qualities that you would see in a world that is awake, with people who are awake? Perhaps, as Melanie pointed to, there would be guidance without control. Perhaps there would be a balance of active doing, but that could find its grounding and bearing in pure being and stillness. What other qualities might you consider? Perhaps this fatherness in us is a place where we can really strike the balance of not overcompensating, as Melanie shared, as I deeply connect with, for deeply compensating by toughening up in a world where we don't know our inner father, that we don't know our spiritual father, and we don't know that we can rest in life, and so we stiffen up. And we are the shoulder that everybody leans on, and our shoulders get heavy and tired. Perhaps in this new world, we embrace a strength of fatherliness, of that kind of love that is a little bit more malleable and flexible, that knows at times it can be strong and at times it can be soft. That there's a movement where we understand that true fatherhood knows the power of moving toward, the power of thrusting into a situation, and the capacity to fall back and receive. Perhaps in this awakened world that we might envision together, the capacity of giving and receiving is perfectly balanced. Your capacity is perfectly balanced. Perhaps as you begin to envision this world, we see people in our lives who reflect these qualities, not perhaps all in one person, but perhaps you can bring to mind or heart a woman or a man in your life that embodies what you think of when you think of awakened fatherhood. I think of the moments, even when I was a lawyer in my law firm, when my supervising senior partner, he's about this big, this is why I look like this, with his bow tie wearing, that this quality where he stammers in as my boss, but then brings me a chocolate chip cookie. The way that feels nurturing, but holding at the same time. I think of the ways that my own biological father, this man who fled Vietnam in his 30s with 5 children to feed, kind of knowing English as a second language, got up at 5:30 a.m. each day to drive an hour to Anaheim, and then to come back every day exactly at the same time, 5:30 for dinner. Solid. How that felt stable and solid. So yeah, maybe awakened fatherhood, my dad, my model for me, has something to do with stability, a certain degree of stability and solidity. But maybe for me also, I think of my husband, Victor, and how in his gift, he's a guy who sings publicly, who sells his CDs. When I rated my various levels of intelligence, different types of intelligence in seminary, when they asked me to rate that, my higher ones were logic, but my lowest was actually music. And so here I am with this man who's able to teach me at home, to sing, to guide me. And I think about the qualities of nurturance that create safety, that allow room for teachability, because it's safe, because you're not going to be judged here, right? So I invite you again to reflect upon the people, male or female, in your life who offer this. Because as we teach in unity, what we focus on grows. And the world that we hold in our minds and hearts, the world that we focus on, that blesses us, we can begin to co-create in a more intentional way together. But if you're anything like me, human, and you start to think, my dad, yes, it was very cool that he did that, but let me tell you the other side of my father. You know, when I start to think about what's positive, I inevitably start to think about the whole experience. And so I'm bound to bring up, even as I hold this vision of these higher qualities, I start to feel, yeah, but you know what? My dad has, to this day, I'm still counting days, never told me that he loves me. Never told me in words. As children, well, I remember that when he came home from work, we would do this thing that Vietnamese kids are taught to do. To bo về à is what we say. And another bo is father. We greet him upon his arrival at home. And I remember running up to him, and there was one short stage where I was about 6, where he would let me kiss him on the cheek. And I would kiss him and feel that stubble on his face. And that sweet moment I cherished because it was the only moment of physical tenderness with my father, because he just didn't know how to do it otherwise. And so even as we hold this higher vision, how important it is to allow whatever still hurts, whatever was unmet, unfulfilled, to also rise to the surface, but not to be dwelled upon, but rather to finally let it move and let yourself feel that wail that Macy May made during my meditation, to feel the wail of letting go, that naturalness of what we feel when our needs are not being met in a way that holds that up. My Enneagram type, for many of you who know the Enneagram, it's a sacred system of psychology that describes, sort of how you came to your particular egoic structure. When I understood my distant relationship to my father and then learned from the Enneagram that my type in particular was built on a disconnect from the protective figure. A disconnect. And so that's why I toughened up. This idea that I was self-reliant. This idea that I was going to do it alone in this world, which isn't actually true, even though it felt so deeply true. And I came all the way from there. So that arises. And what do we do with it? What do we do with who we have become because of what we didn't experience, and therefore the stories we tell ourselves about what's not available, because I didn't experience that protective, guiding, affectionate sense. I bucked up and decided, hey, I'm going to do it on my own. And then here I am, though, in a world that seems to want to nurture me and give to me. And I find myself unavailable for that, because this construct has only learned how on her own, learned how to be a shoulder, but not lean into a shoulder. And so, as we hold the vision for this awakened world within ourselves, necessarily we bring up that old to allow it to be released, to allow it to be conscious. What in you is still compensating for what you didn't have? What in you thinks it's not available right here? What in you does not believe that more so than the child of your biological father, that you are a child of the Father principle that governs the entire universe, and you are made of love, and you are made of it, and you are made of strength and wisdom, but not the strength that holds solid, but the strength that moves with all of life. That you are made of that surrounds you, that the people around you are meant to express and offer those gifts to you. So I'll close with a story that reminded me of the kind of love I'd like to see more in the world. In the 1992 Olympics, British athlete Derek Redmond was one of the favorite athletes for the gold medal in the 400-meter sprint. A lifetime of training had brought him to this moment. And he starts, they fire the gun out, and he starts running as fast as he can. And what happens? In the middle of the sprint, his hamstring breaks. Yeah. And what happens then? Along the sidelines, the medics, the coaches, they're about to run in, but this guy waves them away. He doesn't want their help. Because he said, I came to run this race and I'm going to finish this race. And so he actually goes hobbling down. The newscasters don't know what to do. The coaches on the side don't know what to do. And finally, an older man runs out. And even as the medics and all the other folks are trying to keep him away, he still runs. He runs up to Derek. This man's name is Jim, and it's Derek's father. And he goes to Derek and he says, you don't have to do this, son. And Derek says, yes, I do. And so the father says, well, if you're going to do it, I'm doing it with you. And so the rest of the way, he put his arm around his son. And in the video footage, you can see the son's face, Derek's face, in a grimace, and the father's face is streaked with tears. And together, very slowly, they made it to the finish line, to a standing ovation in the entire Olympics, the highlight of the Barcelona Olympics. You don't have to do this, son. That kind of unconditional love. But if you're going to choose to, I'm here. So this week, I invite you to consider for yourself what fatherly love means. To consider in yourself how it's already in you. To consider the possibility that no matter what your past has held, that this love is fully available to you. Maybe not through the form you keep trying to get it through, but through a friend, through a woman, through yourself, through the rest of the world. And so, in prayer, in unity, we always begin by giving thanks first, because this is the way we know that prayer has already been answered before we ask for it. So as we hold a vision for a greater, healthier sense of fatherly love in our individual lives and in our collective lives, I invite you, as Valerie takes us into this song, to consider again how this state of gratitude helps us. So you might want to hold in your heart this notion of Father and the people that you would bless as you send love.